What you know what, just to be safe, thing you did ended up saving your ass later? Flipped over my shoe and shook it, cause I had found a spider in it the night before, just to make sure, there was another spider in there. Australia? Yes. Not even once. About 10 years ago, when I was married, my wife's best friend kept on flirting with me. One time when she was being super aggressive, I recorded it on my cell phone. A few months later, she accused me of saying to her the very things that she said to me. One listen from my wife to my phone completely exonerated me and shut her down completely. She was trying to ruin my marriage because hers was crappy. So, ex-best friend, right? I spent extra money on Kevlar motorcycle gloves. A lot more expensive, but 5 times more durable. When I later on crashed with my sports motorcycle, I slid the first stretch of meters on the palms of my hands and feet and knees before I started rolling etc. Kevlar is the way to go with all garments. I'm talking shirts, shorts, pants, jorts, gents, underwear, socks, jewelry, glasses, fucking braces, piercings, dentures. Can't go wrong. I have some Kevlar contact lenses. Kevlar condoms. Nobody's poking holes in these. Bulletproof cock. My cock is basically untouchable as it is. Working in an electric panel, I went over to check to make sure the disconnect was off. It wasn't. I was being careful either way, not getting near the high voltage stuff, but it didn't need to be on, and could have easily killed myself with one mistake. This happened yesterday. Electricity, water and wild animals are the 3 things ya don't fuck with in this world. You must be terrified of electric eels. Saving a receipt for a campus parking ticket I paid for during my freshman year of college. They did this thing where they double the ticket amount after a month of not paying. I paid it the week I got it, stuffed the receipt in my bag, and forgot about it. Apparently, whoever was in charge of clearing me didn't, and I was told I had an unpaid double parking ticket on my account. After like 3 months, when I tried to settle up tuition for the semester, disputed that, and wore a smug ass look on my face as I directly reached in my bag and pulled the receipt out to show them. I mean, otherwise, I would have had to essentially pay that ticket 3 times. Something tells me it's not the first time that's happened to students there. I usually pay my tuition in cash. It's a community college. This is not a humbler brag, and they routinely forget to print me a receipt unless I ask for one. Always get a receipt. Was remodeling my house. Took out a loan and had to get the house appraised to get the loan. Found that my house was worth 100k more than I had it insured for. Raised my limits on the home insurance to 50k more than the appraised value in anticipation of completing renovations. 2 weeks later, house burned to the ground due to a faulty bathroom fan that I did not touch. City, insurance company and loan company all sent separate investigators due to how shady it looked. Hoofa. Did it all work out in the end? Insurance rebuilt my home better than it was due to newer code rules. Came out ahead on the house, but lost a lot on personal belongings. I've written about this before, but here goes. 4 students of mine won the first prize for a project they did, and we all got a free trip to London. We had spent the day sightseeing, and were exhausted, so we got an ice cream, and sat on a bench in a park to relax. A couple of minutes later I noticed this couple walk by slowly, staring at us. My spidey senses go mental. I do not like these people for some reason. She walks by and sits on the bench next to ours, and he sits on the bench across from hers. They aren't talking, just looking at each other, and that is when I notice her reaching into her pockets. I jump up, grab my students and run out of the park. My poor students are confused AF and wondering WTF is wrong with me, when all of a sudden we hear screaming. Turns out she stabbed a couple walking through the park, trying to rob them. It scares the ever-loving fuck out of me knowing, had I not gotten my students out of there, we would have been stabbed and robbed. Semicolon. That is some scary shit. Props to you for trusting your instincts. How old were you students at the time? Thank you. They were 15 to 16-year-olds. I had a car sitting on jack stands because I needed to do some transmission work. Before climbing under it, I thought it would be a good idea to rock the car around. One of the jack stands was not in the right spot and the car slipped off it, slamming down on the front disc brakes. Would have killed me. One of my coworkers died earlier this year from this very thing. You were good to check. I booked a vacation for my wife's birthday in Cabo San Lucas months in advance. For some reason as I was booking it, I decided to get the trip insurance. I had never done that before, but time this, I thought I'd better do it. Our trip was to be in October. I booked it in June. The beginning of September a hurricane struck Cabo and did a lot of damage. I contacted the resort and they said they were not very badly affected. I left the reservation booked. The day before we were to fly to Cabo I checked the flights and everything was good to go. We got to the airport and as we were checking, the woman checking in said, "Oh, there's a problem with your connecting flight." Yeah, the problem was the connecting flight had been cancelled over a month ago. Yeah, Expedia neglected to tell us that little bit of info. I was able to recoup all of the money we spent because of the insurance. Those booking websites like Expedia and hotels are horrible. I used to use them because I figured the cost difference would be very minimal and it was convenient for me. But then I recently decided to try booking directly instead of with a booking website, and it ended up costing me $200 less for 5 nights at a hotel. This right here. I used to work as a concierge and front desk check-in / out at a decent hotel. I was offered a job in Europe where I was promised a bonus that was X% of my salary, paid twice a year. When the offer was sent, there was no mention of the bonus, and when I questioned why, I was told, "Don't worry, it's in this email with my official company signature." I put that one into the saved folder, just to be safe. Fast forward to moving. On the first payout period I was told I needed to be with the company for 90 days first before a bonus would be paid. Okay, I was annoyed, but I guess that makes sense. On the second bonus payment, they mentioned that the company hadn't had a great year and nobody would be getting bonuses. More annoyed. But if the company isn't doing great, what are you going to do? I should add this was in 2008. The following year rolls around, and the company announces that things have really taken off, and they will pay out the previous bonus period, in addition to the current bonus period. Only problem is, I literally handed in my resignation that day. I inquire to find out if I'll be receiving my bonus from the previous bonus period, and they say, "Are you kidding? You just quit." I call a lawyer. I dig up the email from the start of this post, hand that over, and the lawyer says it's a slam dunk case. She goes after both bonus payments from the first year, and both bonus payments from the current year, even though one of them hasn't happened yet. Company HQ calls me and tries to get me to drop it, and I refer them to my lawyer. A week later, at my new job, the lawyer informs me that they've paid all 4 bonus payments, and she also went after her own fees. So it cost me nothing. Glad I saved that email. Cover your ass, and do not let others push you around. If I've learned something from Reddit, it's sire, lawyer up, and hitting the gym never hurt no one. CTRL plus S, CTRL plus S, CTRL plus S, and more CTRL plus S. Never know when the power will go out. This shit right here. I can't count the number of times I've had to tell my wife, "When was the last time you saved that?" while she's working on stuff. Guess who has also lost many documents during software errors? Take 10 before you send has saved my ass countless times. Means take 10 seconds to reread your email / post / whatever written communication before you send. Emails, especially in the workplace, last forever. So, you mean everyone else doesn't reread their emails 40 times and then finally hit the send button with anxiety for no apparent reason? Well shit. I was undergoing pilot training and was pretty new to the whole thing, feeling the pressure to perform, etc. I walked out to pre-flight a plane for a solo flight. You do this completely alone. Instructor was back at flying school doing something else. After doing my walk around, it's time to check the oil. Cessna 172s have a dipstick that is attached to a cap that screws into the engine. You unscrew cap and remove dipstick along with it and check the oil. Except, after I unscrew the cap, there doesn't seem to be a dipstick attached to it. I have this thought, well, the engine is still warm from the dudes who just flew before me, so they flew it like this. Maybe they had a separate dipstick. They must have checked the oil then some other way. Then I have the well. To be safe, I should actually pack this up and go ask someone at the flight school exactly how to check the oil in this case. Note, this takes quite a chunk of time out of my supposed flight and will cut my lesson for the day short by quite a margin. But I do it anyway. Long story short, info gleaned from subsequent investigations. The dipstick had broken off during the previous flight that had landed just minutes before and had slid straight into the engine, where the crankcase had been chomping away metal from the tip. That metal now circulating in the engine. The aircraft was grounded. It was extremely dangerous to fly, and at massive cost had to be stripped down. the entire engine disassembled, and they actually had to find every bit of metal missing from the dipstick and reassemble the dipstick before plane could be reassembled and made flight worthy again. If, in a moment of stupidity, I'd taken off in that plane, I'd probably be dead. That's so terrifying, because it's just one of those moments where you cold easily reasoned yourself into saying, "Now those other guys were okay, so I'll be okay too." This is why they make you go through all those lessons before letting you fly, because it is guaranteed the aircraft is going to wind up back on the ground somehow. The saying in the community is, takeoffs are optional, landings are compulsory. Another good saying is, it is better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air, than to be in the air wishing you were on the ground. Removed. Just think of how many times that cobra was there, and barefoot you didn't see it. Cobras are always barefoot, are they not? Little known fact, they're always wearing snakeskin boots. A tropical storm was blowing through my city a few months ago, and we were projected to get some wind gusts and significant rain. Because our parking lot isn't large enough for all staff and our clients, a lot of us have to park on the street, which is lined with large, old trees. As I rolled up on the morning we were due to get the storm, I parked in my usual spot down the block. Before I shut the car off, though, I noticed that this particular spot was located directly across the street from one of the largest trees on the block. Thinking, you know what? Just to be safe, I put the car in reverse and backed up about 10 feet, safely out of the direct line of fire from any trees. In the middle of that afternoon, in the midst of the howling wind and driving rain, we heard a huge thud down the street, went to investigate, and that same tree I'd been parked across the street from fell across the road and missed my car by about 8 feet. At that moment, I was glad that I'd decided to play it safe. The car parked on the other side of the street directly across from where I'd initially been got absolutely destroyed. Crushed roof, windows blown out, just pulverized. We had similar a few years ago, but it was my professor. He parked under a tree and came to teach us. During the lecture the winds picked up and he turned around and said, "Well, I had a gut feeling I shouldn't park in my usual spot, but I ignored it. That may have been a mistake." Turns out it was. Tree toppled and totaled his car. Arrive in San Francisco a week into a trip. As we gather our things during a moment of downtime I go back to check the bus cause, you know, it never hurts. Found my passport, which I had no idea I'd dropped. I took one of those extra driving classes you always hear about to get the discount on your car insurance. I was in college and my premium was killing me. The one I signed up for was an 8-hour course that I knocked out in one day, and the focus was maintaining control of your vehicle in bad weather. I took it over spring break, which is still a pretty snowy/icy time of year around here. The big test at the end to determine if you got the certificate was to pass the moose test, though some places call it the elk test or the deer test. Either way, to pass the course you had to successfully swerve around some cones on an icy road and regain control of the car on the other side of the cones. So my first day back at school from spring break, I'm driving myself and my roommate from the liquor store back to our dorm in some shitty conditions. I try to turn left into our parking lot and my car just slides straight past it and down a hill. I try to turn the wheel right to get into a different parking lot and get closer, but not quite where I need it to be. I'm heading straight for a telephone pole. My roommate is panicking, but I looked at it and I realized this is just the moose test. I managed to swerve around the pole, narrowly missing a wall of parked cars next to it, and regained control on the other side, finally bringing my car to a stop in an empty section of the parking lot. Then we walked back to the dorm and drank our faces off. So the moral of the story is, those extra driving classes you might take for the insurance discount may just save your life. It's the moose test. I bought a used Subaru Badger that was 5 years old at the time and had 75k miles for $12K. The salesman offered an extended warranty that covered the engine for $2,500. Would last 3 years/36k miles. That was kind of a lot, and I usually don't buy those. I don't know what got into me that day, but I said sure. 1 month and 750 miles later, after an oil change at a mechanic shop, oil started shooting into the pistons. I'm not good with cars. Oil went where it wasn't supposed to go. Completely ruined the engine and turbo. The dealer had to keep it for 3 weeks. The warranty company flew someone out to inspect the car, and eventually approved a replacement engine, turbo, and any other affected parts. Total repairs cost almost $11K, and the warranty then applied to all the new parts too. Car drove like it was brand new. Later discovered the car had 5 previous owners before me. but I couldn't find any accident or serious repair history. This is probably the only time buying an extended warranty on something actually worked out in my favor. Oil went where it wasn't supposed to go. That about sums up my knowledge of cars. Glad it worked out for you. This one is a bit more lighthearted. A few years ago I went on a trip to Venice. It was going to be sunny, and I knew I have terrible luck, and that there are many pigeons. So I took an old white baseball hat with me, and put it on. Of course, a pigeon shat on my head, right on the hat I had with me just in case. I bought a really nice tablet a few years ago. A Wacom Inches Cintiq, essentially a drawing tablet built into a laptop, for animation and the like. Sometimes when you buy nice things they come in nice boxes, and for some reason I don't really want to throw this box away immediately. I put it in the storage area of my basement, and forgot about it. After only about a month this $2,500 tablet stopped working. It wasn't dropped or damaged, and I'm still not sure how it broke. It would simply try to boot up and fail, crashing and demanding a restart. I called support, and after several calls and many hours, we were unable to resolve the issue. They said I could send it back and get a new one if it wasn't physically damaged. They told me it needed to be sent back in the original box. I now keep boxes for everything I buy until the warranty expires. TL. Doctor. Cardboard box saved me from wasting $2,500 on a plastic brick. Warranty return must be an original box. That's some low down shady shit, right there. Got insurance for a moving van. It was $50, and I thought just in case. Turns out my roommate wasn't paying attention, and caused one of the walls to be ripped up. Would have cost near $3,000 in damages, but since I paid the $50, I didn't owe anything. Yeah, when you're renting a van that's always worth it. Barely anybody is used to maneuvering such a big vehicle, so something can always happen. Many years ago, when I was a tech at a call center, I was on a call with the client side guy to fix a corrupted database. Their IT guy shared screens with me so that I could work on the recovery. The IT guy renamed the files as fucked_db, fucked_backup_db, etc. Just to be safe, I had him say that it was he who named the files as such and not me. I asked him to confirm this each time I had to touch the files. I took screenshots also. Little did I know, this call was monitored, voice and screen recording. A day later, I got called in by a manager asking me to explain a situation that came out of a recent call I was on. He had only seen a few screenshots that were made by the recording program. I told him to watch the whole video with the cinched audio. A few hours later, he called me into his office to apologize for speaking to me with such an accusatory tone. Moral of the story: always cover your ass. On the brighter side, after the incident, this manager was always super nice to me and backed me up whenever there was an issue. He even wrote me a rave review / recommendation on LinkedIn, back when LinkedIn actually got you jobs. I've had to work with investigators on some occasions at work. One said, "Cyrus, confirm your actions," which is the same acronym as the other, but isn't as bad to use in an investigation. If you have stuff happen at work, write it down right away, or use a resource. The recording, like this, it can save you later. Yup, the manager told me that had the client complained, they would have fired me if I was unable to prove I was innocent. Guilty unless proven innocent is the modus operandi in the real world. Went hiking in the middle of the day with a friend and his GF. I brought flashlights for each of us. Well, the hike took a lot longer than expected, and my buddy's GF sprained her foot at the end. It took us nearly 3 times as long to get back, and it was dark with relatively rocky terrain. Those flashlights saved our bacon. I can't even fathom how long it would take to stumbling in the dark otherwise. Scout's motto: be prepared. I always carry water, a flashlight, snacks, first aid kit, and rain gear. I just keep a day hike bag prepared and snag that, so I don't even have to think about it anymore. Couple of years ago I restarted The Sopranos from season 1. I think it's in the first season where the water heater leaks and floods Tony's basement. So there are these scenes where he's wading around in a flooded basement. I was imagining what a nightmare that would be. It reminded me that when I bought my house, the inspector told me I would need to replace the water heater within 5 years. I then realized that was like 12 years prior. So I suddenly got nervous. I went and looked at the water heater, and it seemed fine, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I also did not have the money to pay to have a new water heater installed, So, I decided to go ahead and buy a new water heater and then save up money to pay someone to install it, The water heater arrived and I stored it in the laundry room. Just a few weeks after it arrived, I happened to look at the old water heater, and I noticed the catch pan under it had an inch of water in it. It was leaking. Oh no. Emergency. Except wait a minute. I already have a plan for this. Semicolon. So, instead of saving up money to hire a plumber, I went to YouTube and learned how to install my own water heater. It all worked out perfectly, all because The Sopranos made me anxious about the condition of my water heater, causing me to randomly purchase a water heater I had no immediate plan to install. Nice. I wanted to install my own water heater. I watched videos and read how-tos, but I got scared. Messing with electricity just freaked me out a bit too much. We recently went driving around Wales and always use Google Maps for navigation point last week. The O2 network went down for most of the day, while we were smack in the middle of nowhere, which would have made searching for destinations impossible. But, I had a forethought, that even with a perfectly working cellular network, Wales is full of countryside, so signal may be lost a lot. So I pre-downloaded the entire northern half of Wales onto my phone before we set off, so a data connection wasn't required to navigate. Semicolon. I think we'd still be driving now if I didn't do that. Semicolon. This is why I have paper maps and downloaded maps on my tablet whenever I go to a rural area. In Australia it's easy to get lost. I've had a handful of these in my life. The one that popped in my head first was from a party when I was 16. It was in a small farm town about 20 to 25 minutes from my actual town, and everyone was out partying in somebody's parents' barn and having a real good time. I didn't realize that RDD had been drinking all night. When it was time to go, I couldn't even tell she was tipsy, but something wasn't right, so I didn't want to drive back with them. For whatever reason I decided to get the verbal tongue lashing from my mom when she came to pick me up. Well, my friends in the first car were apparently veering across the road, got picked up by the cops, and all of them got to spend the night in jail. Glad I opted for my mom. Fuck that. My parents always had a get out of jail free exception for parties. If I was at a party and needed a ride from them, it was no problem and no questions asked, no matter what time of night or how far it was. I've always been grateful for that and will do the same with my kids. Same with my dad. He wasn't dumb and he knew that kids party, so he always made it very clear that there would be no questions asked if me or my sister needed a ride, and that he would ground us until we were 40 if he ever found out we were drinking and driving, or in the car with someone that was drunk. He wouldn't let us off easy for the drinking part either, though. He'd wake us up bright and early the next day and make us do chores while hungered. Lol. Shit, I'm 28 years old now and my poor 70-year-old dad came and picked me up from the bar at 4 AM a few weeks ago. I usually don't drink, but I had a very rough day and decided to overdo it. When we got back to his house he made me an egg sandwich and tucked me in on his couch. I love that man. Very minor, but once I was going out drinking in San Francisco with some friends. We loved going to this kinda dive bar in the Tenderloin, rough neighborhood. Anyway, I had just bought a new car and was worried about parking it in the Tenderloin. All my friends assured me it'd probably be fine. As we parked on the street about 2 blocks from the bar, a homeless guy came up to me and said, "Man, you don't wanna park that new shit here. Somebody gonna smash them windows and steal your stereo, your sunglasses." On a whim I just said yeah, but we are kinda late. Wanna keep an eye on it for me? He pauses for a secretary and goes like a security guard. Yeah, man. I'll watch your car. You got $10? My friends, confused, started mumbling about just walking on, but I thought it couldn't hurt much, so I gave the guy $10. Here's your $10. Keep an eye on it, man. If it's still in good shape, when I get back I'll give you another $10. Damn. $20? All I gotta do is sit here and make sure nobody fucking smashes my window. There isn't anything inside anyway, it's new. I got you, man. I got you. He took a huge swig off this bottle of wild turkey. Anyway, the night progresses. We drink and have a good time. And now we are all proper drunk except for my friend Mary who was RDD. I gave her my keys and we start walking down the block. One by one we notice almost every parking spot has shattered glass next to it. Somebody went through the area and smashed each window to get into the cars. I get this sinking feeling in my stomach. I'm already mentally prepared to have to shell out a few $100 to replace the window of a car that wasn't even mine a week ago. But lo and behold, we get to the spot and my car is fine, and the homeless guy's bundled up in a sleeping bag, and he sees me and goes, "Hey, you back?" You won't believe what shit I did for you. Check this out. And he shows me this huge fucking bruise on his face and pulls off his gloves and shows me his knuckles, which are scraped to shit. What happened? I said. Some motherfucker. Some tweaker cracker motherfucker. He come around here smashing windows and grabbing shit. He gets to your car, and I'm like, yo, pass that one. That shit's my responsibility. And he turned around, pulled back on this big old brick he's got in his hand. And I jumped that motherfucker from behind. And he hit me in the head with his damn brick, but I knocked him good. Man. I changed that motherfucker's mind, man. He was all strung out, and he run off down the block. My friends and I are staring at this guy incredulously. My car is fine. Spotless. I reach into my pocket for $10, but I realize I don't have cash. Dude. Thanks so much. Give me a second, I gotta get your cash. I say as I walk into the liquor store on the corner to use the ATM. As I'm checking out, I realize they've got 750s of wild turkey and they're for like $10. I buy one for him. I give him the $10 and the bottle. Thanks for keeping an eye on the car for me. You would have thought this dude just won the lottery. Oh shit. He kept screaming. Then he kicked the pile of blankets and shit on the side and I realized he had a girl there sleeping. And he goes, wake your ass up, look what I got. And she rubs her eyes and looks confused at us. Then at him. Then at the bottle. Then at us. Wordlessly she reaches for the bottle. He hands it to her. He's still screaming and hollering, like it's the best day of his life. TL. Doctor parked in a sketchy neighborhood. Paid a homeless guy to watch my car. He fought off a meth head who was going to smash the window. Man, I don't know how you did it, but this story is heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. No joke. Super mixed feelings here. My friends and I were always giving shit to another friend because he was never wearing the seatbelt while driving. One night another friend and him drove me home. It was pretty late and we were all tired. When they dropped me off, I told him, use the fucking seatbelt, you dumbass. The next day, around lunchtime, I got a call that my two friends got in a car accident. The dumbass fell asleep while driving my other dumbass friend's car. They hit a parked car, which hit the car in front of it and got stuck into a wall. The parked car acted as a ramp for their car. They flipped over and slid like 20 meters upside down. For some reason the dumbass had his seatbelt on for the first time ever, and he didn't get injured. Both of them crawled outside the car without a single scratch. If I'm not wrong, my friend in the passenger seat broke his pinky though. Dumbass learned his lesson and his seatbelt is always on now, even when he's in the passenger seat. Dumbass. I was going on a road trip. We packed everything in the trunk. Then I realized that I forgot to check the air in the spare tire. Faced with unpacking the and repacking, I thought, what are the odds? We've had the car for years. Never had a flat. We probably won't have a flat now. Then I thought, screw that, and tossed the floor pump I use for my bicycle into the trunk. Just in case. Got a flat in the middle of fucking nowhere. Spare was too flat to drive on. Floor pump saved my ass. It gets packed on every trip now. I used to be a banner tow pilot, and was often tasked to fly banners over New York City area, especially over the Hudson River. I would pick them up at an airport in NJ, and make my way over from there. Typically, if you were to run into some kind of engine problem, you have a fair number of places you could theoretically land if you had engine trouble. Not so much over the New York City metro area. So I picked out a trail of breadcrumbs, if you will, of specific places I could try to land my plane if I ever had to. On the 1-year anniversary of the Miracle on the Hudson, Captain Sullenberger, etc., I was given the job to fly a banner over a boat on the Hudson that would be carrying the crew and some passengers from the flight. On the way there, my engine failed while I was less than 1,000 feet above the ground, sinking quickly. I needed to find a place to land right away. Fortunately, my best previously selected spot was just a mile left to landfill on Staten Island, and I put the plane right on the top of it.